My dear viewers of Satrangi Rainbow, today I have the privilege to present a medical doctor who has had long innings in his medical career, spanning about half a century. His name is Dr. Surjit Sira, and he was born and raised in Nairobi in Kenya. Dear listeners, what interested me most in his persona is that he still keeps himself engaged in cerebral activities and is very active and agile in absorbing new ideas and ideations. So, Dr. Sira, we are inviting you to our channel Satrangi Rainbow with warmth and gratitude.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pallan. Pleased to be here.
So, at the outset, Dr. Sira, please enlighten us on your formative years and how you arrived at the decision of embarking on medical career.
Well, it's a very long story because I'm 86 years old. As you know, I was born in Kenya. I'm the elder of the three brothers. I had two older sisters. My early education was in Nairobi, and I did my primary education and secondary education at the local medical schools, and I finished what they call the higher school certificate. That was your way to the university. And at about age 18, I left for England from Nairobi.
Right, sir. So, Dr. Sira, what are you pursuing after your retirement, after your superannuation? What are your interests in these days?
Oh, I have a variety of interests. The COVID was a setback for all of us. I took the opportunity to teach myself a few languages. I brushed up my Swahili, which I could speak and understand, which I used in Nairobi, but there were other dialects that I also refreshed myself on. In addition to that, my education in Nairobi was basically the second language of Urdu.
All
So I
right.
can read and write Urdu, but I did not have any other language, any of the Indian indigenous languages. So in that COVID episode, or hiatus, if you like, I taught myself Devanagari script with a view to learning Sanskrit. So I've been learning Sanskrit for about 3 years now.
Very nice, very nice. So, you say that you had second language as Urdu there in
Yes.
Nairobi. So, have you read any literature like Urdu literature?
Oh yes, I read all kinds of poetry, mostly Faz and Ghalib, and some other poets, Sahir,
Right, right,
Ludhianvi, yes.
right. So, can you please recite just for our pleasure of our audience as
I,
some couplet from either Faz or Ghalib or Sahir?
well, not at this very moment, I'm afraid. No, no, I cannot recall anything at the moment, no. I'll have
But
to be in a special frame of mind, yes.
yeah, but you like their the flavor of the
Yes,
language and the drift
ab-
of thought of Ghalib and
abs-
Faz and
abs-
Sahir.
absolutely, absolutely, yes.
That's good. That's good. So, Dr. Sira, I have researched that you have a passion for history.
I do,
Could you please
I do.
inform me about, say, Mayan history?
Well, I like ancient history, Uh, and Mine was one of the histories I was interested in. So I took a journey to Machu Picchu and Mexico and that area, and I also followed up by learning all about the Mayan culture, the Aztecs, the whole, and how advanced these people were. They were particularly advanced in cosmology. You would know that, well, you may or may not know, the sun spins on its own axis, and the axis is inclined at about 23 degrees. Now, these guys knew that the sun was rotating, not only rotating, it was also revolving around the Milky Way galaxy. So, very advanced knowledge about cosmology amongst the Mayans. Now, they had a language system that was, I don't know whether you're aware, but they have what we call hieroglyphics. Now, these are pictographs, and when you decipher them, these are their way of writing.
Right, sir. So, what is the current, according to you, what is the current research being conducted in cosmology? And I fail to understand sometimes what these black holes, dark energy, and dark matter, what they are. Could you please enlighten us on that?
I think you're not the only one who's confused. I think everybody, it's changing almost every hour, if you like, not only every day, but almost every hour. You know, we used to hear about the Big Bang, for example,
Yes,
and well, the Big Bang apparently wasn't there in the first place. So, but then the Indian texts have always maintained that there was no Big Bang as such, but there was a beginning and there is an end, but the whole thing is a cycle. So, and most physicists and cosmologists have come to recognize that this is what is happening. But there are more questions that are being that arise when you start thinking about these matters. You have to account for new findings. For example, you mentioned dark matter and dark energy and the black holes. Well, what are these? Well, again, there are matters of description and definition, and everybody seems to have a different idea as to what it should be called and what it is.
right, sir.
So it's a whole state of flux at the moment.
Right, sir. But I have the rudimentary knowledge about these things. Most of
Yes,
these things are Greek to me. So sometimes I feel, Dr. Sira, flabbergasted to learn
yes,
about the Milky Way. How would you
yes.
explain it to a layman like me?
Well, the we have to begin somewhere, and if you speak of the Milky Way, this is a collection of stars, if you like. Our sun is a star, for example. Now, there are millions and billions of stars all concentrated in a disk, which we call the Milky Way. And if you look outside at night, you can see this band of stars across the sky, and our place is amongst those stars. Our sun is just a very minor star in that big galaxy. And not only that, there are millions and millions and billions of other similar galaxies. Some are smaller, some are bigger, but they're all collections of stars.
Right, sir. Right, sir. By the way, Dr. Sira, did the ancients know about cosmos and man's place in this galaxy of planets?
Oh, absolutely. People have been looking up into the sky and finding their place, and they had a fair amount of knowledge. If you our ancient texts, I'm talking about Indian texts. they all mention they have ideas about the cosmos, and they all seem to be well advanced, or at least at par with what is modern science.
Right, right. Do you think, by the way, that global warming and the effects of El Nino are a mere sheer myth?
Oh, no, no, I don't think it's a myth at all. I think it's these are unfortunately very real, and I think we as people or as civilizations have made a contribution. Amount of carbon dioxide that we produce on a daily basis, even now, when we
Right,
know things are warming, I think nobody pays any heed to that. I think one should actually look back and say, okay, stop producing all this carbon dioxide because you are polluting the atmosphere. Sure.
right. There are some attempts at the global level, at the international level, but they have not come to any neat decision how to curb the carbon footprints.
I think, yes, I think somebody has to sort of swallow their pride and say, look, we have to stop producing gasoline or, you know, fuel, for example,
Right,
which is the main source of carbon dioxide. You have to go electric, and not in 50 years or 20 years. You have to do it now, like you have to do it yesterday.
right, sir, right, sir. So just yesterday, there has been a lot of excitement, almost a brouhaha, after India landed on the hitherto uncharted south pole of the moon. How do your emotions stir up on this scientific achievement?
Oh, I'm extremely proud of the fact that the Indians have been able to do it on a budget which is it more or less compares to the salary of one of these soccer players or tennis players. You would imagine that. No, I'm extremely proud that they've been able to achieve this, and not only achieve it, I think they have taken a very positive stride.
Right,
Absolutely.
right. You are right. And again, on a shoestring budget.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes,
There's a lot to be said for that.
yes. So, Dr. Sira, my next anxiety is that in today's world, we have been observing that there is an escalation of people being diagnosed with cancer.
Yes.
What, according to you, is the precisely the reason, and how can this menace of cancer be conquered?
I think when you speak of cancer, cancer is just, you have to go back into what a cancer cell is and what a normal cell is. It becomes a little bit technical, but very briefly, a cancer cell is a normal cell that has gone amok, basically, is the controls that were present in the normal cell have either loosened or disappeared, and it has taken on a life of its own. Um, a lot of research is being done, and I think advances the last, say, maybe 10 years, as opposed to the last, few centuries, have been very profound. Especially the immunological way of dealing with cancers. I think that is a very positive step. Yes.
Right, sir, right, sir. Could you please enlighten us whether it is all heredity or environment?
Oh, it's multifactorial. I think it's also hereditary and also due to environment. I mean, we know, for example, cigarette smoke gives you lung cancer.
Right,
So you're exposing yourself to smoke. The likely chance is that you are going to develop a cancer of your lungs. Hereditary, yes. I mean, some people are more prone to certain types of cancer, or certain organs in some people are prone to certain cancers. Yes. So there is a hereditary factor, and also there is a environmental contribution.
Right, sir. So you just said, Dr. Sira, that some profound research is being conducted in this world regarding cancer.
Oh,
Are
absolutely.
yeah, are there some lacunae and are there some loopholes which need to be plugged? If so, so how can they be done?
Well, science is very, very slow progress, as you know. I mean, I can give you the history of, for example, how they discovered insulin, for example.
Right,
You
sir.
know, diabetes is a very common disease
Right, sir.
amongst the Asians, incidentally.
Yeah.
Now, when you start thinking about diabetes, uh, you know, you go back to the time of Aristotle, for example. Now, that is, we're talking about 200 BC or 300 BC, where they were looking at a certain organ called the pancreas. They called it pancreas afterwards, which is, and they found that it might be responsible. After about 500 years or after Aristotle, they figured that it might be responsible for a condition called diabetes. Now, that was about 1500s. Now, jump up to year 1920, for example, where in Toronto there's a man called Banting. He's a surgeon. 1920. He's not doing too well. He's going to his office and seeing maybe one patient or half a patient a week. That's about it. His income is $4 a month or a week.
Oh,
Now, so what he does is he goes to work in Toronto Hospital with another surgeon, a man called McLeod. McLeod is particularly not interested with anything at the moment, and anyway, cut the long story short, Banting finds himself a job with McLeod and goes to work in his lab. They work on dogs, and one finally hone on to this pancreas. They tie the ducts and see what happens to the animal. Their sugar level goes up, so they know that doing some damage to the pancreas will cause diabetes. So this is how it starts. So we jump from 300 BC to 1920. That many years have gone by, and you have come to some idea that an organ called the pancreas might be responsible for diabetes. If it isn't functioning properly or not functioning properly, that is possibly the reason for the diabetic. Now, to find out what in pancreas is causing or helping to control diabetes, that's yet another story. Another experiments, 3 or 4 or 5 years go by, and they finally uh, come to a decision that there is a chemical called, what they finally call it, the insulin. It goes by other names also, but finally called insulin. This is the organ. This is the secretion or the hormone that is responsible for controlling sugar. So
right.
it takes a long time for research to complete and come to a decision. So when you say if there's a cure for cancer, well,
Right.
there will be a cure, but what form it will take is going to be trial and error, trial and error.
Right.
But looking at the entire picture, I think the immunological way of dealing with cancer would be the probably more fruitful than any other, as opposed to say drugs of some kind.
Right. So long way to go.
Long way to go.
Uh, if you let me breeze in some quack idea.
Sure.
And that is there some spiritual remedy for this impossible malady which is eating into the vitals of our society?
That's a question that I wouldn't be able to answer. No, I don't think I have any uh, suitable answer for that I can think of. No.
So let me connect this idea with another idea. Dr.
All
Sira,
right.
for sure you are deeply drenched in medical knowledge and training. Do you
Yes.
have any particular views on spiritual matters?
Uh, I think spiritual. When you speak of spiritual matters, yes, I think it does give you peace of mind and your well-being. Those things. Yes, it does. It does contribute to that. Yes. Because when you look at the body, we you give it. For example, you take some medication. For example, say sleep medication or something to relieve your anxiety. For example, the way it works, it only not only affects your cells, organs. It has other side effects that one is not always aware of, and those side effects could be called spiritual, if you like.
Right, right. So, Dr. Sira, uh, you are quite familiar with the allopathic medicine, as they
Yes.
say. But
Yes.
nowadays, many people are practicing and participating in Ayurvedic medicine in some
Yes.
countries. What is
Yes.
your opinion about Ayurvedic medicine?
Well, I have no strong opinions about any type of medication or medicine or practice of medicine. I think if it works, it's perfectly okay to go with it. Yes.
Right,
After all, if Ayurvedic medicine says this is the treatment for this condition and it's been proven successful, who would be? I'd be foolish to say no.
right,
I
right,
think, in my
right.
opinion.
Again, what irks me most of the times is that in this postmodern world of artificial intelligence, what is the future of medical knowledge and medical practice?
I think artificial intelligence has been given a bad rap in the last few weeks or months, if you like. I think artificial intelligence, for example, in diagnosing in say breast cancer, for example, you take a radiograph or an X-ray of the breast, and if you have an artificial intelligence algorithm to look at it, I think you can cut so many man hours away from arriving at a diagnosis where it might take you days. An algorithm will take seconds to figure out whether the patient has got that condition or not that condition. So, yeah, in medicine, it's absolutely a boon, if you like.
Right. So, according to you, algorithms they want to interfere negatively in medical research.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So, according to you, what is going to be the scenario in the field of surgery in future?
I think surgery, as you already know, when I started operating, I was opening up abdomens and taking out gallbladders through an incision which was about, say, 2 or 3 inches long. And the last time I did the operation, I made 3 holes. These are pinholes, and inserted a camera, and that's all the cutting that was involved. So it has changed dramatically. We conduct surgery and in ways that one would not have imagined, say 50 years ago. No,
Right.
it is laparoscopic surgery as opposed to open surgery in the olden days. I remember working in the cardiac unit back in England in my training days. We used to start at 7 in the morning and finish around 8 at night throughout the day, and putting the patient on a pump and so forth, and doing all the bits and pieces that need to go to replace a heart, or not replace a heart, but replace a valve. So, whereas now that can be done laparoscopically or through a vein.
Right, sir.
So things have changed dramatically.
Right, sir. Right, sir. So, in your journey of very epochal energy, you have deduced some reasons and decisions you have made uh, by doing that empirical study of
Yes,
patients.
yes.
So, what are those pronouncements which you would like to make?
Um, I think empirically, I think patients will always be patients. I think as a physician, we have our ways of arriving at a diagnosis. I mean, I was always very um, well, if you like, gifted. So my uh, uh, I would listen, and the patient would tell you all that you need to know.
Right,
And he would do one or two tests just to confirm and arrive at a diagnosis. And this is the way it was. But I think things have more or less, gone along the same lines. There are refinements, uh, but I think all for the better in every way, I think.
so, in a way, if I venture to say that your the diagnosis which you deduce, that is based on the input of patients.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah. The patient even doesn't have to, often you can tell just from the way they look at you, the way they walk, the way they sit, exactly what's going on in the patient's mind. And if they tell you what's going on, then you have all the evidence that you ever need to make a diagnosis. Yes.
Right, sir. It is more a psychological one.
Yes. Yes.
Right, right. Dr. Sira, I would like to ask you that in today's world, you are also observing the world very closely, that there are tensions and tribulations galore. And the modern man is faced with crises like depression, schizophrenia, and are they psychosomatic? What are your considered opinion about it?
Well, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I do know some things about depression or deep depression or schizophrenia or Alzheimer's. I think these are the conditions that your nerve cells, unfortunately, uh, well, should I say, suffer from? I don't know. There's something that has gone wrong in that particular cell, in the nerve cell, that is behaving in a way that you should not. So, as to which condition the patient ends up in depends on a whole number of other factors, on the patient's age, environment, heredity, you name it, myriads and myriads of other contributing factors, yes.
Right, sir. So, could I connect it with my previous question that is some peace of mind, whether we gain it from spiritual knowledge or we gain from meditation, will that affect the positive change in patients?
No, I think that, no, I think you have to titrate or individualize when you talk about medications, for example. I think you have to be very careful as to what medication you're taking. I think same applies to spiritual input. Depends on what kind of spiritual input you're getting. Sometimes you can do yourself harm. I think if you read books on people, say yogis, for example, who have gone, or adopted a lifestyle, you can do yourself a great harm if you do not have a teacher. Same applies with medications. If you prescribe yourself medications that you're not aware of, what side effects that you might have, I think you can do yourself a great deal of harm. So again, I think you have to be well informed as to what you're doing, who you're doing to, and what are your sources of information. I think armed with all that, you may be able to say, okay, this is good for me, or this is not good for me.
Right, sir. Most of the times, most of the people, they have sheep mentality regarding these matters.
Yes,
And I think that
which
you
is,
would,
which is, yeah, which is dangerous.
yeah, you would rule it out.
I would.
Right. So in the end, Dr. Sira, I would like to record my thankfulness to you, deep
You're
gratitude,
more,
and for
you're most welcome.
your precious time and your wealth of knowledge and information you have provided to our listeners through our channel Satrangi Rainbow. And I am really indebted to you, and I am really impressed the way you have garnered this knowledge in your checkered and enviable career. May you live long, sir. And you are a medical authority, and you must be taking care of your health, which I would wish. And thanks so much again, Dr. Sira.
You're
Looking forward
welcome. Thank
to
you. Thank you, Dr. Pallan. Thank you.
conduct another interview for our listeners. That would be
Absolutely.
that would be
Yes.
very beneficial to them and to me
Yes.
also.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dr. Sira. Thanks very much. Thanks for your
You
time.
will. Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.